The early days of making porn films were in a gray zone which was very vast and unexplored. In 1974, legendary filmmaker Toby Ross made his first film. Chances are you've never heard of him, but he was filming gay stories when Hollywood didn't even acknowledge we existed. On this episode, we're going to celebrate the strange, bold, beautiful world of Toby Ross, a prolific visual storyteller who was one of the first of his kind on the West Coast making thought-provoking and innovative gay porn films with full-on plots, characters, and even comedy. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Born in 1955 in Landsberg am Lech, Germany, to a Jewish mother and a Catholic father, Ross moved to Israel at the age of 8 with his mother and stepfather.
I came from Europe. I went to a Swiss school and then went to Los Angeles to Northridge State University, graduated, went for my master's, and then went to film schools late at night.
After this, Ross would eventually find himself in San Francisco. In San Francisco, Ross checked into the Embarcadero YMCA. He let his hair down for a bit in a city that he describes was meant for him. And in those days, many people followed suit. Misfits, hippies, drag queens, gay teen runaways, all thrown out by their families, found that they could reinvent themselves into who they really were and wanted to be in San Francisco. In those days, you had to go to the back rooms of bookstores to even see gay desire represented. Ross saw this, and instead of consuming that culture, he decided to document it. Not the version you'd see in porn theaters, but the version he experienced. The awkward glances, the funny dialogue, the weird, tender, unpredictable ways people connected.
Relax. I've done thousands of these. Don't be nervous. If you're worried about taking off your clothes, I mean, there's nothing to it. See what I mean?
And that's what pulled him towards filmmaking. Not ambition, but observation. He wanted to preserve the world he was living in before it disappeared.
You must be new here. Where are you from?
Just transferred from Stanford.
Stanford.
His first feature film, Reflections of Youth, was an instant success. He followed that film with a string of films that featured his now iconic personal flair.
You know what I like.
Ross had a distinct style that elicited an underground feel to movie making. From tone, cinematography, to his preference of models, once you see a couple of his films, you would be aware that you were watching a Toby Ross film.
And he came from a very good family. They had a real nice houseboat up at Lake Tahoe. I used to go visit him sometimes. Now that I've graduated, it's kind of hard to remember all the details. And like anyone, changing like I was at the time, I went through periods of depression. One Sunday, I was in one of those moods, and I drove up to Lake Tahoe to visit Steve.
Wakefield Pool had the older guys, the men, the beefy. Jay Bryan had like the jocks maybe, and my films were probably considered maybe twinkish a little bit.
His actors weren't gym-sculpted stars, they were regular guys. Young, lanky, shy, sweet, sometimes messy. You either saw yourself in them or maybe wanted to be them. Ross built these little time capsules packed with longing, rebellion, humor, and raw emotion. After the success of many of his films, Ross moved to New York, where he found the atmosphere was much different than the West Coast. The bars felt cold and distant, casting for films was harder, East Coast men had a certain look and just didn't seem to want to do porn. His next film, The Last Surfer, would take him right back to the West Coast, but Ross would return to New York to shoot Wild Oats, Ivy League, and Hot Splash.
I just want to be part of the crowd.
Man, listen. What's on the outside, it's bullshit. It comes from the inside. Right in here.
Yeah, really? Do you think so?
I know it.
In the 1980s, Ross had begun his own distribution company called Hornbuilt Productions. He would also begin to shoot on video as the VHS revolution had begun and the industry moved in that direction. By the mid-1990s, the underground film scene that had nurtured Toby Ross had begun to fade. The internet was creeping in, VHS was dying, and the gay adult entertainment industry had moved towards glossier, more commercial productions. Instead of going silent or disappearing into obscurity, Ross began exploring softcore and even straight erotica. When production values went up, Ross began releasing videos on DVD.
At that time, what you have to understand, it was very, very different than today. You could walk to anybody on the street and ask him, do you want to be in a film? And you didn't say, would you pose nude or would you want to be in a porno film? They were considered films. And if you asked somebody to be in them, the fact that there was sex in them was kind of secondary, really.
For a long time, Toby Ross's films existed in a kind of twilight zone. Too sexy for the art world, too thoughtful for the porn shelves. But over time, something changed. The people who grew up secretly watching his tapes grew up. They became artists, writers, scholars, and they started talking about Ross not as some forgotten adult filmmaker, but as a documentarian of queer experience. A filmmaker who captured something real, raw, and emotionally true at a time when almost no one else was doing it. His films gained cult status. VHS copies of Cruising 57 and Schoolmates started getting passed around. Bootleg DVDs circulated online. Entire blog spots and Reddit threads popped up. And eventually, academia caught on. Today, you'll find Toby Ross's name in queer cinema syllabi, underground film retrospectives, and even academic articles exploring the intersection of sex, memory, and authorship. Ross's work, especially the early stuff, is now recognized as a living record of pre-AIDS queer intimacy. His films bridged the gap between porn, exploitation, and art cinema. Just like many of his contemporaries today, Toby has received recognition and accolades, but in my opinion, nowhere near the amount that is needed for preservation and history. And even now in his 70s, living in Israel, he's still got the same dry wit and sparkle in his eye. He doesn't preach, he observes, and he laughs, and remembers. Maybe the most powerful reflection of all came in an interview where he was asked what he hoped people would take from his work. He paused and said, that we were here, that we loved, that we laughed, that we wanted things, and that our wanting was beautiful. And that's what Toby Ross leaves behind. Not just films, but evidence that we were here, that we mattered, that we lived fully and freely, even in the margins. You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I'm your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on X, Facebook, Instagram, Substack, Threads. And if you like what you're watching or listening to and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifying gay porn, where you can support this podcast and YouTube channel, and I can continue making content like you've just enjoyed. As always, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, leave a comment, and let me know what else you'd like me to cover. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off.